Welcome back into Tapped Out here on the BetQL Network with Brendan and Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. And let's welcome on friend of the show from the Die Hard MMA Podcast. He is Clint MacLean. And, dude, I was looking forward to Conor coming back, and then they told us it was Michael Chandler. And I've even watched a couple, like a little bit, parts of Tough. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched a full episode, but a little bit of it. I ask you, are we sure that fight's going to happen? Because it sounds like Michael Chandler isn't.
I don't think it's happening. Not even are we sure it's happening, but I'm on the other swing of things. I'm pretty sure it's not happening. I mean, I can't believe that Conor would go through this whole song and dance of being on The Ultimate Fighter and then flare out the way he has on this fight. I mean, Chandler is the guy that he kind of handpicked from a mile away as the dude that he can beat. And then something as simple as not getting back in the USADA testing pool to make sure that you're legally able to compete for this fight in the year 2023. I got a feeling this one's going to fall apart, and I think it's going to fall apart quick, man. I'll be honest. The whole Conor situation, he's been spiraling for years now. This is new levels of what are you doing?
Do you feel like we're going to ever see him, Clint? Like we're getting to a point, like how many years are you going to be out of the cage, and feel like, he already wasn't fighting well, and now you have the injury, all the outside the cage stuff, now all this time away from fighting. Like, at what point do you just decide, hey, this isn't gonna happen anymore?
I think we're getting close to that point. Honestly, Conor is set for life. Dana White's been saying it, the whole time he's been operating the UFC. It's hard to wake up in silk sheets, right? Like, he is not nearly as motivated as he was in the past. We can see that. That's blatant. It's obvious. Does he get enough motivation to circle back around for one more at some point? I think probably yes, but it's a matter of when. He's been done in the top 5 for a long time now. I don't think he's ever getting anywhere near a title shot. The problem is it's Conor McGregor. So if he's coming back, it's for a contender slot. It's for a title shot. They might shoehorn him in there for one more at some point, but man, I think our fights are very limited. Maybe one, maybe two, and then I think that's the end of McGregor, if I'm being honest.
I'm with you, BT. I'd put the over-under at like half of a fight if we're ever going to get another Conor. And I know it's sobering. It's crazy to think, but I'd probably take the unders. We're talking with Clint MacLean here from the Die Hard MMA Podcast, just because of what he was talking about, man. That guy's become a complete train wreck. Anyway, on fights that we know are going to happen. For the BMF belt, Dustin or Justin? Where's your money going?
I actually kind of like DP, man. This is a spot where Dustin has been, we talk about gatekeepers and fighters take that term personally because they don't want to be the gatekeepers, but there's different levels of gatekeepers. Dustin is the gatekeeper to the top 3. Like, you're not challenging for a title unless you get by Dustin Poirier. And the way he matches up with Gaethje, we saw it last time. This guy just knows how to survive those early brawly exchanges, and then he makes it a technical brawl, which a lot of people aren't able to keep up with unless you're exposing his grappling later on down the stretch. And I just don't see Justin Gaethje doing that. He's made some adjustments. He's not quite the wild man that he used to be, and that's obviously worked out well for him. As long as Dustin Poirier's durability is intact, and at this point, I have no reason to believe it's not, I think he can weather that early storm and drag the fight into his realm deep again. So I'm kind of saying run it back. I think Dustin Poirier probably gets his hand raised.
Do you feel like the winner of the BMF belt, how good is their claim at getting a chance to fight for the actual lightweight belt? Or did Charles Oliveira kind of solidify himself for a rematch with the win over Benny? Like, who do you think is, I guess, either more deserving or more likely to get the next crack at Islam?
I think, unfortunately, who's most likely is the winner of the BMF belt, right? I think the UFC is kind of positioning themselves to let one of those guys have a crack at the fresh blood that Islam Makhachev is asking for, at the top of the division. He already came out, and after Charles won, he's like, nah, no rematches. He doesn't want none from Volk. He doesn't want none from Charles Oliveira, and the UFC is putting the BMF belt on the line. That all smells to me like this says title shot. Personally, I think Charles Oliveira more than earned his rematch with Islam Makhachev. Like, that guy has been on top of this division for so long. He's finished everybody. Nobody can hold a candle to him. Islam disappointed in the super fight with Volk, which I think he lost. And then He's done what since? Nothing, absolutely nothing. So I get maybe he needs the motivation of a new opponent. I can understand that from a fighter's perspective, but Charles is the number one guy. They really should give him his rematch, in my opinion.
Clint, if you were to bet a big chunk of Brendan Tobin's money, who would you put it on to beat Islam? Because for a long time, it looked like he was unbeatable. Then we saw him against Volk. Me and BT both agree with you. We think that Volk, it was close, and we both had money on him, so we're a little bit jaded. But we think Volkanovski won the fight. He was a crazy underdog going in. Is it Volk? Is it, like, if you could take any of these guys that would take out Islam, who would you take?
You know, I'll be honest. I think Volk still, to this day, I made the same bet you guys did. I took a small sprinkle at those long odds. I thought he won the fight. He's too small. This thing comes to size is there. Weight classes exist for a reason. I think Volkanovski's skill for skill is better than Islam Makhachev, and maybe he can weasel out a decision. But if you're not going to get a split decision at home, where are you going to get that split decision? I don't think Volk's the guy. Charles honestly might be, though. You know, he got clipped with a big shot from Islam. If he changes his strategy ever so slightly around, if he game plans a little bit differently, I think he's got all the tools he needs to get his title back from Islam. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, I'll be honest with you, Islam is not Khabib. And that's kind of the big thing, right? Is that everyone said he was the future. He's going to reign. He's better than Khabib. I don't think that's true. And Dustin had problems with guys with this style in the past. Like I mentioned before, you drag him deep, you get him a little tired, you take his back, you tap him out. That's how everybody beats Dustin Poirier, and I think Islam can do that to him relatively easily. Justin Gaethje's kind of the wild card for me because Khabib said that he was the hardest hitter he's ever faced, and I think Dustin actually getting out there, beating up the legs of Islam, that takedown defense, the sprawl and brawl, we've seen it do pretty well. Gaethje is maybe a dark horse for being able to pull off the upset, but I think Charles probably has the best shot.
Speaking of Alexander Volkanovski and his fight coming up rather soon against Yair. We had Max Holloway on a few weeks back, and he said, listen, don't sleep on Yair, but it seems like the odds makers are. They don't think that he's got any shot in hell, really, against Volk, and I understand it. I mean, Volk has defended his belt. We've talked about what he did against Islam. Do you think that Yair's got any shot here? Is there any play to put some money on him going into this fight?
You know, yeah, I kind of do. The one thing we've seen from Yair recently is a real focus on his grappling. You know, his submission game has gotten leaps and bounds better over the course of the last couple of fights. And that's where we have seen in Volkanovski's couple of spots is he's given up a couple of bad positions. I mean, even against Islam, you know, he got his back taken and he was punching from that position, but you don't want someone like Yair Rodriguez on your back. Now, big size difference, obviously, big strength difference, obviously. Can Yair get to that position? I don't know. I think you have to favor Volkanovski by a wide margin because, frankly, guys, he's a generational talent. This guy is far better than anybody ever gave him credit for. And until he starts to decline, I'm not betting against him. So I think there's an argument to be made. The odds are a little bit wide, but bookmakers have to protect themselves because Volkanovski is a free square 9 times out of 10 at this stage of his career.
Talking a little betting and a little fighting with Clint MacLean from the Die Hard MMA Podcast here on Tapped Out, the BetQL network. We appreciate you checking us out. O'Malley versus Aljo. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was earlier today. Chito Vera said that he's not sure if Sean O'Malley has earned the title shot. You can understand that coming from Marlon Vera. That being said, simple question. Do you think Sean O'Malley's overrated?
Absolutely. 1000% Sean O'Malley is overrated. You know, you look at his last couple of fights, and he's been gifted a couple of those decisions. Now, don't get me wrong. The guy is incredibly talented. And honestly, even if he were to have lost a couple of those decisions, I think he's proven that he belongs in the top 5, right? Like, I can't take that away from him. But them basically just putting all their eggs in one basket, gifting this guy an opportunity at the title. He went from Chris Moutinho and Julian Paiva to a no contest eye poke over Pedro Munoz. After losing the first round, frankly, that should have been that no contest. I don't know how they scored a win for him when he's down 0-1 on the judges' scorecards. And then he won a split over Piotr Jan, which is questionable at best. So I don't know how he goes into this spot against Aljamain Sterling with a lot of people expecting him to go ahead and get the win. He's got the style that potentially could abuse what Aljamain Sterling is bad at. And I think stylistically, he's got a shot to win this fight. But is he overrated? Absolutely. Guy's a complete hype train, very skilled, very talented, totally top 5, but if we're talking top 1, top 2, top 3, I think Henry gives him a hard time, and I think Umar ragdolls him.
Coming up at UFC 290 with the middleweight division, Robert Whitaker and Dricus du Plessis. Izzy's already kind of got his eye on Dricus as like some kind of fresh blood in that. Do you feel like, that he's got any shot to beat Robert Whitaker? Because Robert Whitaker only seems to have one kryptonite, and that's the champ. So does Dricus have any chance to get this win and then probably solidify himself as the number 1 guy?
Man, that fight, I've got the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up for that one for some reason. No, I think Whitaker should win this fight everywhere it goes. He's another one of these guys that is just durable beyond belief. He can go 15 hard minutes in a brawl, in a war. He technically just works his way around people. He's better than you everywhere you want to take the fight. Dricus is an anomaly to me. Yeah, he hits hard. Yeah, he's strong. He's opportunistic with his submissions. But where's he going to get that on Rob? Is he going to hurt Rob on the feet? I don't think so. Is he going to outpace Rob on the feet? No, probably not. Is he a cleaner striker? No, he's not. Like, I don't know what the deal is. For some reason, there's something in my soul that tells me Dricus is going to win that fight. And it doesn't make any sense to me because on paper, Rob is better everywhere. So I got to pick Rob to win, but man, I'm going to be watching that fight so closely. I don't know why. I'm kind of drinking the Dricus Kool-Aid.
We got a couple of minutes left with Clint MacLean from the Die Hard MMA podcast here on Tapped Out. BT got really upset last week. I ruffled his feathers talking about the face-off between John and Francis Ngannou, only because he was like, dude, it's never going to happen. They didn't want each other. They're in separate promotions. That being said, what do you think the odds would look like if they did step into an octagon in like 6 months?
Man, that is such a weird spot, right? Like, I got to think that due to public perception and just the well-rounded nature of John Jones' skill set, he's probably a hefty favorite. He's probably a minus 185, a minus 200 favorite in that spot. And people are going to bet John Jones. He's been the best thing ever to step in that octagon his entire career. And now that he's got heavyweight gold wrapped around his waist, Francis has been kind of shunned a little bit by the media, by Dana White. All that is going to take an effect on the betting line, and people probably just pile in on John Jones. I'm not sure the champ should be disrespected that badly. I would be on the Francis Ngannou side at plus money myself, but I think you have to respect the resume of John and make him a decent favorite.
But are you with me here? Like, this is supposed to be the sport where we get where we want, right? Because I say this as a big boxing fan as well, and had known many years of things just getting like teased and never happening. And it's like, I go this week, and it's like, I see a face-off that's not going to happen between those two guys. I got Dana White on TMZ this week saying he's going to set up a fight with Mike Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. I'm like,
I got Elon Musk. I like Musk. I like.
Isn't that what you really want, though?
What a tremendous waste of time. Like, we're all here. Why is the biggest mixed martial arts promotion in the world letting their heavyweight champion walk, and we have to have some weird crossover? That's never gonna happen. Like, this genuinely pisses me off as a fan.
I told you.
You know what? I get it though. I can absolutely sympathize with you because the UFC went from being, we have the best fighters on the planet and they fight the best fighters on the planet, to let's lower our bottom line, shuffle off these guys that are making 50, 60K to show. And they're bringing in these contender series guys that frankly need 2 more years of seasoning before they're UFC ready. The product is absolutely watered down and diminished in the last 5 years or so. And frankly, I think Francis Ngannou was right to ask for his worth. And you know how that ruffles Dana White's feathers. He doesn't like being told no. He doesn't like not being the one in the driver's seat. So he made an example of him, and Francis is going to go win a couple $1 million for the trouble. So who really won? Who really won in that exchange? I think King Francis pulled the right move. He's getting paid. He's now the head of Africa for PFL. Like, the guy is doing just fine. I hope we get to see that fight sometime, but I think it was mishandled egregiously, and Francis kind of had to do what he had to do and stand on what he believed in, and I think it turned out fine for the champ. So I'm happy for Francis. I'm sad for us.
I feel like we need to do a whole part 2 here with you, man, because I know you got to get out of here, but I wanted to ask you a bunch of stuff. Like, now we're talking about the UFC being watered down. How close are these other leagues to catching up with them? But let's just get out of here with this one. We'll bring you on in a couple of weeks again. Amanda, the GOAT, retires. We all agree that she's the greatest female fighter of all time. Who do you have behind her? Who's number 2 right now?
For as far as women's MMA goes, you know what? I think it's got to be Joanna. I don't know that there's many people who have as strong a resume as Joanna Jędrzejczyk does, because she stormed onto the scene, man. She's like a little Anderson Silva, right? Like the grapplers couldn't get her to the floor. The strikers were nowhere near her level. She was vicious. She was mean. She scared the entire division. And how long she reigned up there with an iron fist, she's got to be my pick for number 2 on the Mount Rushmore of women's MMA. I think Joanna is right behind Amanda Nunes. And you guys know, hey, just anytime we can make it work, happy to come on the show. And I love talking fights. So no problem at all. Hit me up in a couple of weeks and we'll definitely do it again.
All right, Clint, take care, bud. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir.